Hello, my name is Ben Walker and I'm here today talking about finance. Now, at school, we're not really taught about finance, we're not taught about buying a house, taxes, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be making all these videos to basically help people understand what their options are, how to go forward, and what to look out for. So I'm working in partnership with Promise Yourself, which is aiming to give impartial guidance basically on how best to go through life and actually learn about all these things that we're just not taught. So today I'm talking about buying your first house. Now, of course, this is a massive commitment, so you want to know what the pros are, the cons, and what to really look out for, which I'm going to cover in this video. So diving straight in, we're going to talk about the advantages. Now, of course, big advantage is actually currently it is cheaper to have a mortgage than it is to actually pay rent. In fact, in December of 2020, it was 9% cheaper to pay a mortgage every month than it was to pay your monthly rent. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that it's going to be cheaper every time, but in that month, it was cheaper, and generally at the moment, it is cheaper as well. Now, the housing market, of course, is very, very variable. You don't really know what's going to happen. But the current trend we're seeing is that mortgage should continue to be cheaper, but of course I cannot guarantee that. Now, when you're actually paying your mortgage as well, you're paying money into your own property. You're not just giving money to someone else who can then spend it on whatever they want. You're paying your money into your own property, which in the long run you will then own. So not only can it be cheaper in the long run, but also you'll end up with your own house to do whatever you want with. Happy days. Now, as you're paying more money into it, you're gaining equity, and that's a percentage of that property that you actually own. So, as you probably know, if you want to buy a house, chances are you're going to need a mortgage, which means you're just borrowing money from someone else to be able to pay for that house. Now, of course, when you take out a mortgage, you have to make sure you can keep up your repayments, otherwise you're at risk of losing that property. But once you pay off that mortgage, the property is 100% yours. Now that brings with it further advantages, because once you own the property, you can do whatever you want with it. Obviously, so long as you get planning permission, all that kind of fun stuff. Whereas when you're renting, you're kept to a strict set of rules set by your landlord. You can't really break those, otherwise you could get evicted. Now, another massive advantage with buying your own property is, in the long run, this can prove to be very, very, very profitable. Because as we've seen recently, house prices are just going higher and higher and higher and higher. In fact, every single year for the last 10 years, they've risen about an average of 4.3%. That means that in 10 years' time, if you buy a house right now, you're looking at an extra 48% of value on that one property. Now that's a massive, massive amount of money. Of course, it's not accounting for inflation, but still that's a massive amount of money to be sat on. And as we all know, with house prices continuing to rise, it's going to get more and more difficult to actually get your first foot onto that ladder. Now, while there are many advantages with buying your own property, there of course are a few disadvantages. Now, chief of these is you need a pretty hefty deposit to even think about buying. There are schemes out there which can help you. There's government schemes, there's non-government backed schemes, help to buy schemes, right to buys. All of that can be found on the Promise Money website, or in fact I'll be doing my own little post about it as well, just to make sure everyone can really understand it. Help to buys, right to buys, as great as they are, you still need some kind of deposit, and not everyone has that kind of cash. If you don't have that kind of money, you just need to save it up, and of course I'll be doing a video about saving as well, but in the short term, it's not going to be that possible. Also, when you buy a house, you're in there for the long run. It's a big commitment to have. Now, of course, you can sell the house again, but there's no guarantee that you'll be able to even get the same amount of money you paid for it, or if you'll even be able to sell it at all, or with house prices being what they are. So it is a big risk, but there's also a potential for a very, very high reward. In the end though, it's all completely up to you. If you don't feel like buying a house is right for you, absolutely fine. All you have to do is look for rental properties instead, and I'll be doing a video about rentals very shortly. Now, when you're actually looking at houses to buy, there's so many things that you need to look out for, too many for me to talk about on this video. But very simply, you need to actually look at the house, look at the structure, whether there's damp, the storage space, the garden space. You need to make sure this house has everything that you really, really want to find in a house. If it doesn't feel like it could be your house, it's probably not the one for you, okay? It's a lot of work, a lot of research, finding the right house for you, but it would be very much worth it rather than just buying the first one you think you can afford. Now, like I said, these are big commitments. If you're not sure the house is right for you, you could end up tied into a commitment that you just don't really want. And if you can't keep the payments up on a property, there's a danger of this house actually being repossessed, so you're just losing everything in one fell swoop. Make sure you're making smart, sensible decisions, talk to friends, talk to families. If you're not sure what else to look for, scroll down on this post and there's a nice little list there telling you some certain things to really look for when you're looking at houses. And one piece of advice I can give is speak to a financial advisor or someone who is knowledgeable about all these kind of things, who can really help you find the right property for you. Now, if you do have any questions, just keep Googling, look at all these posts that I'll be doing. Make sure you are reading and learning as much as possible so you can make an informed decision. My name is Ben Walker. Hopefully you've learned something from this. Keep scrolling through his post, read as much as you can, and I'll see you next time.